Welcome to the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Lace up those boots and sling on the pack for a romp through trails, short and long. With your host and Renaissance man, Doc. It's time to embrace the suck.
Power Bed.
Welcome back to another week on the trail. I'm Doc, and this is the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Let's start off with a reminder. If you are enjoying the podcast, help us out. Take just a minute, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're not enjoying the pod, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, let's get to this week's guest, whom I met via an exchange of emails, I think based from our website. I find out that he is a loyal, longtime listener. He's listened to most of the episodes of the John Freakin' Muir Pod. So already I'm a big fan of his. And he has some stories to tell us, some outdoor adventure stories. I like to compare outdoor adventure to a tree because there are many branches to outdoor adventure. You know, we spend a lot of our time on the big main branch of through hiking and hiking out in the outdoors, multi-day hiking, day hiking. But there are a lot of other types of outdoor adventure that we have covered. We've talked to polar explorers. We've talked to big wall climbers. We've talked to long distance bicycle racers. So we're gonna take another little side trip down another branch and hear about a different type of outdoor adventure tonight. And so please welcome to the pod, Brian Sheridan. How you doing, Brian?
I'm good, Doc. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm curious, how did you discover the podcast?
So, as you know, I compete in sort of long distance paddling events for which, you know, they're essentially adventure races. So you have to carry the same gear that hikers, you know, a tent, a stove, a sleep system, you know, whatever. And I had a bit of a hiking background, but started looking into sort of the ultralight, YouTube videos and whatever, and came across the John Muir Pod from my research and trying to learn how to lighten up my gear, and you know, really enjoyed the sort of the relaxed, wholesome nature of the podcast, and just started listening to all the episodes.
Wholesome. I've been called many things. Wholesome is a rarity, but I'll take it.
You know, it's not super produced. It's just, you know, some guys talking about outdoor stuff, and I like that.
That's right. And I like to think of us not only as a wilderness or an outdoor adventure podcast, but also a human interest type podcast, because we get into a lot of stories and the stories behind the people out there, which I think is has a big draw for me. I really like talking to people and hearing their backstory and how they came to be involved in what they're doing. So,
well, not only the John Muir Pod, but I also listened to Solitude, your other podcast for Alone, my favorite show on TV.
Yes, outstanding show. I mean, it is primetime TV. The characters they put out there, in addition to their survival skills, really makes for riveting TV, and I am hooked just like you are. So thanks for tuning into that one as well.
Absolutely. Great show.
Thank you very much. Hey, Brian, in all the time that you have been on the trail, have you picked up, or in outdoor adventure, have you picked up a trail name? Is that a thing with canoes and paddling?
Kind of. So the group that puts on the race that I participate in, called the Everglades Challenge, is put on by a group called the Water Tribe. And so to join the Water Tribe and compete in an event, you have to choose your own name. Now, initially you choose your own name, but in my most recent long distance paddle in the Everglades, I did it with several of the guys who compete in the race. And so I was recently bestowed a new name from the original one I chose, which is Buffalo Soldier. And that's sort of a 2 or 3 part thing. I do enjoy the occasional Buffalo Trace bourbon, especially after a long, hard day of paddling. And I'm a bigger guy. I'm 6'2", 295, maybe 300. Former Texas high school football player, power lifter, and so on this most recent long distance battle, I was bestowed the, I guess, not really trail, but
the stream
paddling.
name, stream name, river name.
Stream, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you want to call it. Tribe name technically.
Okay. Now, if there's an emergency, we've talked about this in the podcast before. If you remember my talk with 127, whose trail name was 127 hours. And we talked about the difficulty of, in an emergency, getting all those syllables out. I mean, is there an abbreviation to Buffalo Soldier?
You can just call me BS.
Oh, I like it. Brian Sheridan, BS. Buffalo Shoulder, BS. Yeah. Bullshit, BS. I mean, this is, I see a trend. All right. I was going to go with Buff or Buffalo. I don't know, but BS. I like BS. All right. Very good. And before
I've also been known for the occasional, feat of strength, picking up heavy objects.
Okay. Now you were a power lifter. What was your personal record?
Oh, it's been 20 plus years, so I'm not 100% sure. I know I was in the, so in high school we had these shirts that said 1,000-pound club, which meant
I was going to say, if you're not sure, adjust upwards, inflate it a little bit.
Yeah.
We're telling stories here.
Yeah. So I can tell you for sure by my sophomore year of high school, my bench, squat, and deadlift combined was over 1,000 pounds.
All right. I'm just used to lifting, 8 ounces at a time. So,
or 16,
yeah, depending. And football, Texas football player. What position did you play?
Defensive tackle.
Okay, got after the quarterback and the
once or twice
in the pocket there. Very good. There you go. There's the very good. Hey, any favorite episodes of the podcast so far?
Yeah, I like the mile and a half guys.
Yeah,
I like the To Measure a Mile guys. I've seen both those films, and then Ginger Balls is also pretty entertaining.
He's always a good interview. Yeah. He is real life, man. He is a lot of fun to talk to, and I got to meet him in person when I went down and met him in Playa del Rey, which was a lot of fun. And my only regret is I was down there with him and I said goodbye after the interview and got in my car and I said, I didn't take a selfie with the guy. I don't have a picture of the guy. I mean, what was I thinking?
You gotta Facebook that, man. Come on.
I know. Chris Carter, To Measure a Mile, he is out on the Continental Divide Trail right now, and he's going to get to the top. He's going south to north, and as soon as he finishes that, he's going over to the AT and going southbound on the AT.
I heard that episode. Yeah. In a single year.
Yeah, he's going to do both in a single year to try and become a triple crowner. So really wish him the best out there.
Right there.
Yeah, for sure. That's a lot of walking,
dude.
Okay. So now we have your trail name established, BS. We go by trail name strictly here on the podcast. So you're BS, I'm Doc. And since you are a longtime loyal listener, you know all about the pro tip insight of the week. I'm going to turn to you at the end of the episode and ask you for a nugget of wisdom that you can share with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better. So be prepared for that.
Definitely.
Okay. Hey, another feature we've been doing this season is the Must Bring Gear Review, sponsored by the ultralight backpacking gear company Outdoor Vitals. And here's how it works. As you know, I'm sure, if you were to let a stranger pack your bag with pretty much generic gear for a multi-day hike, what is the one specific piece of gear you would insist on being packed? And if you've got a particular brand for that specific piece of gear, even better. So BS, what is your must bring piece of gear? And you can apply this to a multi-day hike, or you could apply it to the paddling world. I'm interested in either or both.
Yeah. So for a hike or a paddle, rest is important, sleep is important, and specifically on paddles, because sometimes you end up sleeping on docks, which are hardened wood. So I like the Sea to Summit Ether XL rectangular sleep pad. I was a long time Thermarest guy, because my big thing was like the last thing you want to do when you get back to the camp is hyperventilate yourself trying to blow up a thick air pad. But this Ether Light pad, the stuff sack turns into a pump, so you connect the stuff sack to the pad and just keep it a fair distance from your mouth. Just give it a good blow. And in 5 breaths, you can fill up a 3.5 inch thick pad that is super comfortable. and zero potato chip bag effect. Like it doesn't,
Nice.
there's no crinkling as you roll left and right. 'Cause I'm a tosser and a turner.
Very good. 3.5 inches thick. That's a lot of cushion. That is very helpful. And I really appreciate that it's not potato chip bag, because those drive me crazy.
I'm with you. I nearly left. So when you paddle in the Everglades, you literally sleep on these things called a chickie, which is like a 15 by 15 dock with a tin roof. And there's two of them usually side by side. In the middle, there's a porta-john. So, the Park Service rents them out like to up to 12 people. So you could show up and there's already, half a dozen folks on said dock. So you're often tent to tent, with strangers. And we're, in the middle of nowhere in the Everglades. And this guy had one of the potato chip pads. I didn't get a wink of sleep. Just rolls over. Terrible.
And you have to wonder, does the guy not hear that? I mean, I've camped with guys who have a potato chip bag, and I'm like, how do they not know that they're annoying the entire campground? I mean, it is.
So I was talking noise in the morning. I was a little fired up, had a cup of coffee and no sleep, and had a potato chip bag from my trash, and was just like, you hear that? And he's like, no, I have earplugs. I didn't hear it at all.
Man, I would not want to be in camp with a fired up Buffalo Soldier. Watch out, man. Especially if you got your coffee going. Watch out.
Yeah.
All right.
It's critical.
So tell me about the gear that you would bring for a paddle versus the gear that you would bring on a multi-day hike. Are they similar? Is there overlap? Or are they completely different?
100, almost the same.
Okay.
Big differences are you can't filter salt out of water. So
they don't have that kind of filter yet?
I mean, they exist, like a reverse osmosis, but I mean, like the pressure that you have to apply to, reverse osmosis water filters look like a 15-pound bicycle pump. Like the amount of pressure you got to push down on these things to squeeze out, a quart of water is unbelievable. So you take all your water with you. So when I leave, let's say the northern end of 10,000 Island Park to enter Everglades National Park, which is a 100-mile section of just Everglades. There's no roads, there's no docks, there's no towns, nothing. I'll leave with, 25 to 35 liters in bladders in my boat. But, the food's the same. Tent, you got to have no trekking pole tents, because you got to have a self, or, a tent with poles, because you can't put a stake in on the chickies, and you obviously don't have trekking poles with you, but so you need a self not inflated, but a tent with poles, and you got to bring all your own water, and then obviously your paddling gear is a little different. So, you're going to have, if it's cold out, you're going to have waterproof tops at least, and some people wear full immersion suits, and then also because there's it's a little bit more dangerous to paddle than it is to walk in the woods. We usually carry redundant safety devices, so I'll carry a spot on my jacket and an EPIRB, which is a emergency position radio indicating beacon, but basically a help button that works anywhere.
I like EPIRB. That's good.
Yeah. But yeah, essentially the same gear, just
okay.
And you carry a bit more redundancy, just because rescue is much more difficult. It's not like you can walk to a road and look for cell phone signal and get pulled out. If you're in the middle, you're 50 miles from anywhere, and the only really feasible rescue is either maybe you get some cell phone signal, but probably not, which means your only real way of communication is, if you happen to have an inReach or, some sort of satellite communication, you can text for help, but otherwise it's Coast Guard.
Yeah, you've got to have some kind of GPS device, because otherwise, if you're just calling on a cell phone, you're like, hey, I'm in the swamp. I'm by the tree near the water. That's where I am, and that covers pretty much the entire Everglades. How are they going to find you?
Right. I'm on an island in 10,000 Island State Park. 10,000 Island National or State Park. Which island? I don't know. There's 10,000.
BS. I have to tell you that the Everglades freak me out. I mean that. It sounds like a nightmare scenario, and we're going to get into some stories from the Everglades. But I've talked to a few guests that have done the Florida Trail. I remember talking to Mountain Cat, I think was her trail name, Mountain Cat, who picked up a boyfriend on the AT who was from Florida, and he convinced her to do the Florida Trail. And they were hiking
Jupiter too.
And Jupiter, that's right. And they were hiking in waist deep water, and I could not bring myself to do that, knowing that there are gators out there. So that's just wild. I can't wait to hear some of your stories.
Yeah. It's a little different in a boat, though. I mean, first of all, your feet are dry, but and gators are less of a deal if you're not physically, swimming or wading. They're not.
Okay.
A lot different in a boat.
I'm with you
though. I live in Florida. I live very close to the Florida Trail. No interest in doing the waist deep walking past gator part. No thanks.
Yeah. Mountain Cat's boyfriend convinced her that, they're not interested in people. Don't worry about it. I said, I'm not sure that's right.
They really kind of aren't. I mean, one big exception though is right now, August, September, which is alligator mating season. And while they're not trying to eat you, they're super duper territorial. So many a times paddling this time of year, you'll get gators that'll swim right next to you and, thrash their tail or whack the side of your boat. Not because they're trying to eat you, but they're, view you as a threat, and they're trying to, scare you off so you don't, endanger their breeding, possibilities.
Well, it would work with me. One tail slap and I'm out of there.
Yeah, definitely wake you up at, 0 dark 30 via headlamp, and you get your bow whacked.
Man, crazy. All right. Hey, we're going to back up a little bit before we get too far down the trail. We're going to talk about your origin story, how you got involved in outdoor adventure, where you grew up, if the outdoor experience was part of your childhood, your family traditions. But before we do, this is going to air, I believe, in middle of September, late September, September 25th, this episode. So Alone will be over by then. But I want to hear your prediction for who's going to win Alone. We got 3 contestants left with Biko, Clay, and Teresa. Who's your pick and why?
Well, my top 2 are clearly Biko and Clay. Biko because he's mentally tough and he's got the weight to lose. Clay because he's got all the supplies and the food. So
it's going to be interesting to see which one of those scenarios plays out better.
Right. And I think it's about if Clay kills something else, it's done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because he was looking skinny. I mean, 9 minutes to get dressed. I don't know, man. That sounds like starvation to me.
That's right. And for the 50 pounds of deer meat that they have been talking about that he has, right. I haven't seen him eat any of it. So I don't know.
Okay. Rewind. Sorry to divulge, but
go ahead.
All right. So if I'm starving in the woods, I'm throwing no part of that deer away. I'm, running the, intestines through a river. I'm saving it all. I'm having haggis, deer stomach haggis, I'm throwing none of that away. I'm boiling the bones. I'm boiling the hooves. I'm getting all the calories, squeezing all the calories out of that deer.
Yeah.
And we didn't see any. I mean, I don't want to judge a guy without knowing, but didn't make the, maybe all that's B-roll, who knows? But
yeah, I think Biko would have brought back 150 pounds of that deer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he's right. Sure he's right there with you.
Brain hand the hide. I would have, had boiled brain soup. A lot of fat in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be, I'd be cracking open marrow, roasted marrow over, beef jerky toast.
Yeah. I've been called a fathead before, so I think that rings true.
Yeah. Same.
All right. So Biko or Clay, both of them.
I'm saying Clay.
You're going to go with Clay.
Pure resources.
Yeah. I feel connected to Biko. He was on the show. I was able to talk to him. He was very cool. I'm pulling for Biko. My heart's going with Biko.
And 2 young kids on the way. They could use $500,000.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, we'll see how it all plays out. All right. Let's get back to the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Where'd you grow up, and was the outdoor experience part of your family experience?
So I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I was very fortunate to have two parents that took me out in the woods from a very young age. I was, camping in Oklahoma before I can remember. So 100% outdoors was, part of my upbringing, part of who I was. I was in Scouts, and then later was a camper at a Methodist camp in Colorado, I like my local Methodist church. Mm-hmm. Later became a counselor at the same camp. It was based at it was part of a Rocky Mountain Adventure Camp, which is run by a Mennonite church, but we sort of rented it. But it's right at the base of Pikes Peak. So by 10th grade, I hiked up Pikes Peak probably 6 or 8 times. So definitely grew up outdoorsy, and I'm super thankful for my parents for doing that. And I'm trying to pass it along. I try to take my 2 girls out camping as much as I can. Very
good. Couple questions. What is camping like in Oklahoma? When I don't have a good mental picture of what Oklahoma is like. I just think of the Dust Bowl. So tell me about it. Yeah.
Part of Oklahoma is super duper flat Dust Bowl, but that's like Western Oklahoma.
Okay.
Southeastern Oklahoma, or, directly above Dallas, is, rolling hills, maybe in mountains, piney forests,
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Shout out to Broken Bow State Park in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. It's beautiful. Check it out.
BS already starting with the shout outs. Very good. I like it. I like it. And how did you end up moving from Austin to Colorado?
Well, so I grew up in Dallas, and the summer camp that I went to was based out of Colorado.
Okay. So it was just summers. Got it. Okay. So
this is just a Methodist church based camp out of Dallas that went to Colorado for a week every summer.
So parents sent you there for a few weeks so they could have a break from you.
Right.
Got it. Yeah.
Send me to the woods, though. If you're gonna have a break, you may as well send your kids to the woods, right?
That's right. It's the best place to send them.
Okay. Yeah. So and the camp sort of progressively got more adventurous. Elementary school, you basically stay in camp. The ultimate day is the last day of camp, and you hike from the camp to Pikes Peak, which is from 9,000 feet to 14,000 feet. So, basically a vertical mile, and I think like 12 or 14 miles linear, which for, a 7th, 6th grader, 5th grader, that's a big deal.
Big deal.
And yeah, into high school, you get a bit more adventurous. You start backpacking. And then in backpack, like they call it, the senior high backpacking camp. The plan was to do a double 14er. There's 2. So we went into the collegiate mountains, also 14ers. We were supposed to summit Mount Harvard and Mount Columbia in the same day. They're like saddled together, and then head back down. We were camped at like an alpine lake. I think it was called Bear Lake or something.
Is this part of the college visit program?
No, this is high school.
No, I know, but you were high school students and you were visiting the collegiate peaks.
yeah. Not quite. But we ended up only going up Harvard, lightning storm, but still amazing experience. I think it was a four night overnight backpacking trip. But I'm talking old school gear, like aluminum frame external packs, like 10-pound tents. There was no such thing as a Sawyer squeeze, pump filters, leather boots, blue jeans,
See, you have to go through stuff like that to appreciate what we have today.
Yeah, I know. The
context.
Exactly. Like the 60-pound pack is not unheard of in 1994.
Wow. Yeah. Now, when you started that story about how, there were activities for elementary school, and then it kind of got, more advanced as you got older, I was thinking, high school, it was like Lord of the Flies out there, but you didn't go that way. You.
Yeah.
All right.
So
So
the character I am in the Lord of the Flies. Okay.
okay. All right. We won't speculate. So what do you do now to pay the bills, and tell us about your family?
So I'm a marine engineer, and I work at a yacht fabrication company. Basically, we fix 100-foot and larger, primarily middle hull private yachts.
Okay. You say re-engineer. I've heard of engineers. What's a re-engineer?
Oh, marine.
Oh, marine engineer.
Marine, yeah.
Got it. I just heard the re-engineer. Like you're fixing stuff. You're doing it better. You're taking somebody else's stuff and you're doing it better.
Trying.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because my sister, not the one who always likes to chime in on the pod about the podcast, but my younger sister, she currently lives in a boatyard in Mexico with her husband, and they are fixing up their boat. They're taking this COVID time, to really take advantage of the cheap living expenses down there. I think it's $300 a month to be able to live there and work. They can do their own work on the boat. They don't have to use boatyard employees.
What yard?
That's a good question. I'll have to.
Pacific Mexico.
It's on the Gulf side somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that could be interesting.
Yeah, but they have a 40-foot sailboat, I believe.
Okay.
That they're redoing the complete hull, and they have plans to sail to Hawaii and eventually around the world. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll see if we can get any marine questions answered.
Yeah.
During the podcast here.
Pass the engineering context on.
Yep. And you said daughters?
Yeah, I have two daughters, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old.
3 and 6. Okay.
Yes. Which means I get to enjoy 13 and 16 at the same time, 14 and 17 at the same time.
Congratulations.
Looking forward to that.
You are outnumbered, my good man.
I am. I'm outnumbered with gingers too. My wife's a redhead, and my oldest is also a redhead. So
okay.
Yeah.
And fiery temperament, or
oh no, they're Zen Buddhist monks.
Okay. At least that's what we're going to say on the podcast. Very good. You're a wise man. All right. And so let's start talking about some of your adventures. How did you get started? Did it start with hiking, or did it start with paddling, or how did that all come about?
Yeah. So, obviously I mentioned, hiking in high school, went to Texas A&M, had an interesting trip immediately following college, using my same backpacking gear that I had from the 90s. My roommate and I decided to go for a Big Bend National hike, which is one of the larger national parks sort of in the western edge of Texas, but it's desert. And it's sort of the tail end of the Rockies, end up in, southwestern Texas, and end up into Mexico, actually. So we literally just went to my storage unit, grabbed my high school gear, which at that point is, 8-10 years old, loaded up, no planning, no information, no nothing, and just, strike out west for towards El Paso.
Logistics. Don't need any of that stuff. Right.
24, bulletproof. We got this. Don't worry about it. The website has like 3 pages of warnings about heat and, no water and blah, we got this. So
you were a defensive end and a power lifter. You don't need any of
right, yeah.
Warnings. Come on.
Good. I just graduated college. I got this. And so this is a 30-mile loop with no giant heights, like it's no, John Muir Trail, 12,000 foot passes, but it's a whole lot of, 4, 5, 6,000 foot up and downs, which is good enough. And it's in pretty serious desert. So there's no water. So you can drive to, we did this outer loop, I think it's called, or not 100% sure, but this is 20 years ago. Anyways, at mile 20, you can drive to like an abandoned ranch site and cache water. which you have to do because it's physically impossible to carry 3 days of desert water through 30 miles. So we cache, of course,
tough to carry that water when you're not in your canoe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because fresh water and salt water is actually buoyant. So, anyways, we get there late, of course. Don't listen to the rangers. Don't read any of the literature. Cache our day of food and, probably too small amount of water. I think we cached like 5 gallons or 3 gallons in like a hard plastic container. It's night. We just toss our water underneath some mesquite tree, maybe tie it up or something along with our last day of food. And it's awesome. We're high-fiving, everything's sweet. Start the trail. First day's awesome. Again, invincible 24. I think we did like 2 or 3 miles of side trail along with our 10 or 12 miles of hiking. Great first day. Second day, wake up a little sore, not so invincible. And during the second day, we went down, much like Southern California, the valleys are where it's really hot and there's all the cactus and it's super dry. And then in the mountains, it's, almost foresty because that's where all the water is from the mist. And so you get these, like islands of forests in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, Sky Islands, as
Right.
Barney Scoutman calls them. Yeah.
Yeah. Say very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, during the second day, I popped my Thermarest, whacking it on a cactus or something. So don't sleep much the second night. Third day, get up. We have just enough water to make it. And of course, first thing I do is make like a 1 liter tea for, breakfast and proceed to spill the whole thing.
Oh, no.
So I'm gone from just enough water to 1 liter down. We make it through the second day. We get lost on a river, the trail enters like a dry riverbed, and we're just hiking down the dry riverbed. Don't notice the right-hand turn to leave the dry riverbed, end up walking past it. Didn't have a GPS with us. By the time we figure out where we're at, it's a few miles past, maybe a mile or 2 past where we're supposed to turn back. So a 10-mile day turns into like a 12 or 14-mile day. I basically run out of water, an hour before we get to our cache. And we're waiting, because we got all our heavy, tasty food sitting at the cache that we don't have to carry, cans of meat and, all kinds, like as you would do.
Uh-huh.
And we show up, it's dark, and there's just disaster everywhere. Like I see ripped up pieces of my dinner, 50 yards before we get to where we left our food. We show up to the mesquite tree where we hung our plastic water container, and it's just a mud pile. Either wolves or coyotes, probably coyotes, got into it, ripped all our food up, punctured our water container. We had, maybe 2 or 3 liters, out of what we cached. We're exhausted, not good. Salvage the water we can get. I mean, I literally picked up a, half-eaten granola bar, coyote saliva be damned, and just downed it right there. I was basically out of food. My buddy I was with, I knew he had a bit more food than me, but, he was skinny, probably needed it.
That may qualify as the Roland Welker moment, the woodsiest moment of the episode, eating the granola bar with the coyote saliva on it.
Yeah,
nice.
Could be.
Very good.
Anyway, so the next day sucked. No water, very little food. I'm hiking behind this skinny kid, knowing he's got like 2 granola bars hidden that he didn't mention when we were splitting up the food. I'm thinking murderous thoughts, but I could push him down the hill and nobody'd see.
You could take him, BS.
Granola bar.
You could take him.
Yeah, but anyways, we finished. Lesson learned. Don't run out of food when you're hiking. It sucks. And second lesson, don't run out of water when you're hiking, especially in the desert. Also sucks. But anyway, so that was kind of the last time I really, really went hiking.
I can see why. That's not a surprise.
Yeah.
So you had all the answers, no logistics needed. You went out there very confident. You had this thing licked, and things didn't quite go as planned. Normally they rarely go as planned, but yours took a couple of serious side trips there. That's scary stuff.
Yeah. Well, and before our talk, I went and looked at the website, Big Bend National. There's literally a page and a half of warnings about, and by the way, this is not a rip on Big Ben. We were just idiots. There was like secure metal storage boxes right there. We just walked past them. But there's a page and a half of warnings about like, don't do everything that I did in 2004.
Okay. It's almost like a pro tip right there.
Okay. I got a good one. I'll keep it.
Okay. All right. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to hear about this thing called the Everglades Challenge. We're going to get into the swamps of the Everglades and hear some stories. I cannot wait. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. The John Freakin' Muir Pod is sponsored by Outdoor Vitals, the ultralight backpacking gear company whose mission is to improve the mental, physical, and emotional health of mankind by facilitating impactful outdoor experiences. Outdoor Vitals creates innovative technical products with confidence-inspiring education that empower outdoor ultralight adventurers. Their focus on performance enables you to live ultralight with gear you can actually be confident with. Whether you're looking for an ultralight sleep system, shelter, or pack, or if you're looking for top quality apparel for the trail, you can find it at Outdoor Vitals. Do yourself a favor. Live ultra light. All right, welcome back. We're talking to BS. Heard about his experience growing up and his adventures in Big Bend National Park. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of the Everglades. In my mind, Everglades, have you ever been on the Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland or Disney World? Yeah. So that the first part of that boat ride through the bayous, that's kind of, I think, probably an inaccurate mental image that I have of the Everglades. But so tell me about the Everglades Challenge. What is that all about? And how old were you when you decided to do this?
So I grew up racing sailboats. I was a skipper of the offshore sailing team at Texas Maritime Academy. So I've kind of been in the competitive sailboat racing world for a while. And the Everglades Challenge is a race of a variety of different craft. Anything from pure paddle boats, no sail, like a regular kayak, all the way to hardcore, purpose-built racing sailboats. Kevlar sails. I mean, think America's Cup, but only a foot deep of water. And then everything in between. So there's a few rules and an immense amount of safety guidelines.
Like a page and a half of safety guidelines, like Big Bend National Park.
Like I'm talking a 5-page safety equipment checkoff list that a experienced racer physically comes to your boat and you have to lay out all your gear the day before, and they go through and check it all. And then depending on how you answer your safety questions, will make you load all your stuff in your boat and then go out and perform like self-rescue maneuvers. Like if you don't seem prepared, they'll make you go out, load all your stuff up, flip your boat, right your boat in, deeper water than you can stand up in, and then recover your boat and get back to shore. Prove
it, right?
Prove
you can do it. So you couldn't ignore these safety regulations.
No, they're very serious about safety.
Okay.
And DQ people at the start. Like if you try and launch your boat and you show a lack of ability to control your craft, they'll somebody will pull you aside and say it's time to head to shore. Sorry, your race is over.
Yeah. BS, I've got a documentary for you before I forget along those very lines. Have you seen Deepwater?
Deepwater, no.
Deepwater, not Deepwater Horizon, but it's Deepwater. It's a black and white documentary. I think it might be on YouTube. It's about this guy in England who was running out of money, and there was this around the world sailboat race
Oh,
that he entered to try and get financial backers. He passed himself off as an expert yachtsman, and in reality, he was not. But he raised enough money from these investors, and he had to go through with it. And so he ends up in this around the world race.
yes.
And it is a story. Let me tell you, you need to look that up. I think you'd really enjoy that one.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Okay.
I've read a book about a guy in the same race called Bernard Messature. His book was called The Long Way Around. But it's the same. The Fastnet Race is what it's called, right? Isn't it? Or is it the Volvo Ocean Race, right? The previous. Anyways, moving on.
Yes, go ahead.
Uh,
Sorry to interrupt.
That's all good. The Everglades Challenge is a race of either one person or two person teams. If you're an outrigger canoe, you can have three, I believe. Now, I am a newbie, rookie, by no means the spokesman of the Everglades Challenge. I've attempted the race once. There are people that have completed it like 10 times.
In my book, you're an expert, BS.
Yeah.
And so you can use, the competitors might be in different types of boats, different teams.
100%. The start line is a spectacle of marine craft.
There's no standardization. You have options.
So there's 5 different classes of boats, and they vary from, like I said, a pure paddle boat is like class 2, I think, and then you can have like a recreational regular kayak or canoe that has a small sail, and the sail area is limited, and then you can have sort of multi-hull, bigger sail, also like are you familiar with a Hobie Tandem Island? It's
not at all.
A canoe with a sit on top plastic Hobie canoe with outriggers, and then a pretty big sail.
Okay.
There's boats that can be just paddled, boats that can be paddled and sailed, boats that are more sail than paddle boats, but still paddleable. And then there's straight up racing sailboats that have like an ornamental paddle, and they say they can be paddled, but they never touch the paddle.
Now, when you say paddle boat, you don't mean like the river paddle boat with a big paddle wheel on the back, or you don't mean the boats that you see at a water park where people are sitting and using their feet to paddle.
No,
you're talking about a paddle boat like a canoe or a kayak.
Canoe or kayak style paddle.
Got it. Okay, I had this image of
or crew, like a rowboats,
right?
Like a rowing scull have done the race before.
Yeah, you said paddle boat, and I had this in my mind. I had this vision of this like big yellow rubber duck with a person sitting on it and paddling fiercely with his feet. Yeah, exactly.
100 mile. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have to start 10 feet above the high tide line, which means in anything you use to get your boat into the water, you have to take with you. So the hardcore racing sailboats have a real hard time getting off the beach. The paddlers just, grab your boat, run it in, you're good. The race is from basically the middle of Tampa Bay on a little island called Fort DeSoto, down the west coast of Florida, and then across through the entirety of the 10,000 Islands National Park, Everglades National Park, and into what's called Florida Bay, which is sort of the backside of the Keys. And then the finish line is at Key Largo. The race is an adventure style race. So it has no course line, no required course that you must take. There's 3 checkpoints along the way, but it's a choose your own adventure. Past the start line, you go where you want to go, how you want to go. You just got to be to the 3 checkpoints at certain time frames.
Choose your own adventure. I like that.
Indeed. So you can go offshore, you can stay inland, because there's what's called the ICW, the Intercoastal Waterway. And then as you proceed down the race course, there becomes a lot more options and a lot more ways to cut through Florida. It's a very ingenious race because the first 655 miles are through the some of the most populous areas of the race, meaning there's the most boat ramps, there's the most ability for rescue, and there's the least decisions navigationally to be made. And then as you go down the race course, the civilization disappears and the wilderness appears. The ability for rescue disappears, and also the ability to refill water, which is a big deal. So there's at least 100 miles of race course with no ability to refill water.
Did Gary Cantrell or Laz Lake help design this course?
No, but there is definitely some parallels to the Barclays.
That's right. Oh, look at you! You know where I'm going. So
yeah.
When you get to the three checkpoints, do you have to tear out a page from a book?
No, but you have a pithy comment you have to leave in the logbook.
Nice.
So, anyways, it's a very unique race that I had heard about through my sailing career and reading like sailing magazines and stuff like that. It had always been kind of on my bucket list to sail because I'm a competitive sailor, and the records that some of these sailboats have set have been unbelievable. The fastest sailboat time to go 300 miles. And I didn't mention, the checkpoints are all significantly inland. It's not like on a beach on your way south. You got to come in an inlet at whatever time and then run down the ICW for whatever length and then pull into a marina all under sail and or your paddle, and then go back out all along the Florida coast.
Yeah, why make it easy?
Well, but it's designed so that the paddler and the sailor can compete. So that, because a sailboat's going to go fast, sometimes upwards of, 15, 20 knots. Paddler, you're going to chug at 3.5, 4 knots max. But the checkpoints are on your way because you're already on the inside. You're already staying in the protected water. Whereas the sailboats are going offshore, big wind, big speed. So they lose all their time on the inlets. And then gain all their time in the open water passages. Paddlers are opposite.
So do they have a winner by class, or is it just an
correct
overall winner?
Well, both. They have
both.
Have class winners and then overall, fastest.
Are there some years where a paddler wins it and some years where a sailboat wins it?
100%. And then every year, paddlers and sailors are in the top 5 for sure.
Okay. And do paddlers swear just like the sailors, or is that
probably more? I think
more. Yes, I imagine so.
I think the sailors drink more than the paddlers.
Okay.
Only because your paddling performance suffers more from drinking than sailing performance.
Yeah, and I can imagine paddling there'd be a lot more swearing. I see how that works. Yeah,
for sure.
Okay.
Well, and it's tidal too. The other part of this is it's tidal. So at any given inlet at any given time, you could have 3 or 4 knots in your face or 3 or 4 knots with you for a couple miles. So it's a timing, navigation, and fitness all mixed. Not unlike a bit Barclay-ish,
Yeah, a lot of variables.
Barclay, though, a lot more people finish then. They don't have one winner every other year or something.
Right. Okay.
But so the sailboats can finish fast. The current record for a sailboater is 1 day, 2 hours, and 12 minutes. 300 miles unassisted. And the paddling record is set by 2 amazing, as a father-son team, who are both former Army Rangers. Their tribe name is Iron Bob and the Juice.
Bob and the Juice. I love it.
Yeah. And they did it in 2 days, 20 hours, and 6 minutes. No sail, just paddling. Which is unbelievable.
So if you're looking at the records for each sail and for paddle, the sail record is obviously quicker.
Right.
But there are certain conditions that have to exist for that to happen, right?
Right. Like a meteorological anomaly to set a record.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the same could be said with, paddling, that while the conditions are slightly different, but for them to set a record, they need very agreeable weather conditions. If you got a headwind for 2 days, you're not setting a record.
Yeah. And you need favorable conditions, or you need Iron Bob and the Juice sitting in your boat.
Right.
With you. Yeah.
Right. You need, mental fortitude that comes through years of special forces service.
Yes. They know how to embrace the suck.
Right. Right.
That is a skill. That's a skill set right there.
Yeah. Oh, and unbelievable fitness as well. Like they do afternoon paddles that are 50 miles for fun,
Just for fun.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm 38 years old. When I was 38 years old, I figured out that the race was going to occur on my 40th birthday. And at the time I knew, I for sure could sail the race. Not saying it would be easy, not saying it wouldn't be a challenge. But definitely the more masochistic route is to paddle it. So I decided I was going to paddle the 300 miles of the Everglades Challenge that you have to finish in 7 days. So that means to finish the race, you need to average 45 to 50 miles a day, every day to finish paddling.
And prior to this, what was your long distance paddle day?
0.
Okay.
I didn't even own a paddle boat. I had infrequently canoed when forced to.
BS. This is starting to sound like Big Bend National Park all over again.
Yes, but a bit more preparation this time.
Okay.
So anyways, I have about a year and a half or so to train paddle. I went to the start of the 2019 race, met a few people, got some tips, got a lot of help from a few of the, more veteran racers, and then set about getting in shape. And so, I bought a rowing machine, started rowing in my garage a lot, training, and, did all the gear stuff you do, GPS, navigation, et cetera, et cetera. So 2020 rolls around in March. I have my boat. So I chose a 18-foot Kevlar canoe made by a company out of Canada, Vancouver, Canada. So it's a canoe that looks like a kayak. So it's pointy like a kayak, but you sit in it and don't wear a skirt. So standard canoe paddle. I actually use both. I use a canoe paddle and a kayak paddle. And then I have a small 1 meter sail at the front.
Now, did you do this solo?
Yes.
Holy smokes, BS.
Solo, unassisted. So this is part of the rules I didn't talk about. Your wife can't meet you at some random bridge and drop you a care package. Almost all racers take everything they need. So you're leaving with 7 days of food, certainly in the beginning, at least a full day of water, maybe more. And then as you progress down the course, you need more and more water because the distances between stops are longer and longer.
What if a stranger were to accidentally nudge the care package off the edge of the bridge just at the right time?
I mean, it's we're racing for a necklace here. I mean, if you really want to cheat, it's kind of your race. It's not like
that was choose your own adventure.
It is choose your own adventure. So if you choose your adventure that involves cheating, that's up to you. The rest of us do it not to cheat and for the real adventure.
Nice. Of course. You're a sportsman, true sportsman. And I have to say, did you feel like you'd bit off more than you could chew? I mean, this is huge.
Kept me awake at night.
300 miles solo and in the Everglades.
Yeah. Well, the first part's through very populous South Florida. But, once you get to Marco
Island,
part,
there's
nothing. So the first 150-ish miles are, adventurous through,
if something were to happen, you would be close to civilization for help.
Right. There's boat ramps, there's people, there's cell phone service.
Right.
But once you pass Marco Island, that disappears.
What did your wife think of this?
She upped my life insurance policy.
I see you glancing to your right occasionally, so I'm assuming she's in the room with you.
No.
She's not listening?
No.
Okay. All right.
Not at all.
So I'm
just staring at my drink.
Okay. She upped your life insurance. Did she think this was an early midlife crisis?
I don't know. It's possible, but it's continued. So maybe her theory is incorrect.
Okay. All right. Continue. So, I want to hear more. Yes.
Got my boat, got my gear. Go to the start line. Now, the Coast Guard mandates that the Everglades Challenge cannot start if there's what's called a small craft advisory, meaning that weather conditions. So this is a thing that's issued by the National Weather Service. You may have heard in your area, like area lake wind advisories or something like that. Same kind of deal. If that occurs, the race can't start. So they allow people to do what's called Plan B, which is skip the major open water portion. So the race starts in Tampa Bay, which is about a 7 or 8 mile long open ocean bay. So if you turn right in Tampa Bay, there's no land until you get to Mexico. So the morning the race started for me in 2020, there was a weather advisory for small craft. So I chose to skip Tampa Bay and drove, basically 7 miles down course. And then launched on the southern end of Tampa Bay, continued down what's called the Intercoastal Waterway, an inland channel running south. You still run through a few different bays, but nothing huge and nothing because Tampa Bay is like a shipping port. So not only is there 3-4 foot waves, but there's 1,000-foot container ships crossing your path that you must avoid because they're not stopped. And so I actually don't start paddling till noon. The race is supposed to start at 7 a.m. So I spend, 5 hours of packing my stuff, putting my boat in my car, driving south, assembling the boat, starting, et cetera, et cetera. So the day's going pretty well. I'm making good speed. It's really windy, obviously, because there's a small craft advisory headed south. Everything's going as planned. Wife and kids drive down the course, see me at a bridge, we wave, we smile.
But they don't give you anything.
No.
Okay.
Other than a little love. That's
okay.
It.
She blew you a kiss.
Yes. And so it's 57-ish miles, I believe, to checkpoint 1 from the start line. I skipped about 5 miles of the race, so I got, 52 miles to make it to checkpoint 1.
That's day 1?
Day 1.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Doing great.
All right.
I'm a big boy. I get hot, even though it's 50 degrees outside with, a strong wind. I take my waterproof top off. So I just have like a rash guard and, slider shorts on during the day. Life jacket on, with all my safety gear in the life jacket. Keep paddling. Sun goes down. Keep paddling. It starts to get cold. 8, 9 o'clock at night, I'm playing the game of, I'll stop and put my jacket on at the next boat ramp. And then, I'll stop, at the next place, anyways, this proceeds for a few hours. I have my, maps.
You didn't want to break momentum. You wanted to keep going.
It's same as you running and you're like, I'll stop at the next light pole and I'll make it to the next light pole. You play these mental games with yourself.
Oh, hang on, BS. When I say I'm going to stop at the next light pole, I might not make it to the next light pole. I will stop at that light pole if I'm running.
Yeah, but this is a race. A race I've been training for a year and a half.
All right.
So we're doing good. I have my maps and tide chart in like a giant Ziploc bag basically in front of me. It's about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I go to change the map page from one to the next, and my hands are like lobster claws. Like I have no dexterity. I can't do it. It's so much so that my tide chart falls out into the water and just like floats away, into the darkness.
Out with the tide.
And then it clicks in my head like, oh no, I'm cold. Like I have, early stage hypothermia, loss of dexterity. Like I'm in trouble. This is bad. I need to go get warm now. So luckily there was a boat ramp, let's say 2 or 3 miles away that I had marked on my chart that I knew about. So I'm headed for the boat ramp. I get to the boat ramp, and I start doing more dumb shit. So as soon as I get to the ground, now, from the waist down, I'm in a warm, cozy Kevlar boat, and I only have slider shorts on, underwear basically. So I get to shore. I immediately hop out of my boat, so exposing my lower half to the, 45, 50 degree windy conditions. And then in my head, I'm thinking like, oh, I need to take my life jacket off to put my jacket on. So then I get out of my boat, take my life jacket off, which is, the other. So now I'm in underwear and a rash guard, basically, already cold. All my warm stuff is inside my boat underneath a waterproof, like snapped on cover, tent, jacket, everything that I need to not be cold is, between me and a snapped on cover. And after taking off all my insulation and standing up and stopping paddling, I get cold. I start uncontrollably shaking and, like second stage hypothermia, which is a problem because I'm shaking so bad. I can't open the snapped on cover where my jacket is and all my warm stuff is. And now I'm on this boat ramp in the middle of nowhere in Florida at freaking 11:30 or 12 o'clock at night. So, the race organizer is a guy called Chief, and he writes all these articles about boat safety and all sorts of recovery drills, one of which is hypothermia recovery, which I read. And immediately, his words came to me. Luckily, I had a Snickers bar laying in the cockpit of the boat. I grabbed the Snickers bar and just toothpaste style, squeezed the thing into my mouth, swallowed the Snickers bar, started doing jumping jacks till I stopped shaking, which takes, a few minutes, maybe 20. So I get warm enough to stop shaking, open my boat, get my jacket on, get some pants on, get warm, stop shaking, set up camp, cook a meal, do my thing. I'm like 6 miles from checkpoint 1. Like I'm real close. Had I not been an idiot and put on a jacket, I for sure would have made it. So I set up camp there on the boat ramp, night 1, 50 miles in. Recover from mild hypothermia. And I'm from Florida, man. We don't do cold.
No.
This is a new thing for me.
Did you have to make checkpoint 1 by a certain time period?
Yes. 10 a.m. the following morning.
Okay.
So, anyways, I camp, hot meal, but I don't get to sleep till probably 2 a.m. just because I'm cold and I can't warm up. And I also stupidly took just like a fleece blanket instead of a proper sleeping bag, thinking it's March, it's Florida, it's spring break, it's Florida. It's gonna be hot.
Yeah.
Not true. Should have brought, something more. Anyway, so 2 a.m. probably get to sleep. And at 4 a.m., 2 hours later, somebody's knocking on my tent, which is strange. I'm at a remote boat ramp in the middle of, open up the tent. It's, some poor unfortunate soul who asked me if I have any dust. Yeah. So
There's
I'm like,
plenty of dust. There's dirt all over the place. Take your pick.
Right. We'll skip the explicit language, but basically I asked him nicely to leave. And tried to roll over and go back to sleep, but I was so, fired up from this dude waking me up when I'm trying to recover and sleep. So I probably got up at like 5. Break camp in the boat, 6, make checkpoint 1 by, I don't know, 7:38, maybe 9.
Okay.
Good, decent time.
Uh-huh.
Still not in real trouble yet. Make checkpoint 1, check in. This is where lack of sleep starts kicking in. In my head, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to be in the Everglades really soon. I need to fill up with water, which is not true. I'm 100 miles from the Everglades or more, 120 miles. So I took on way too much water. I filled up my 20-liter bladder 100% full, totally unnecessarily. There are plenty of places to get water between there and the next checkpoint. So the next checkpoint is at Chokoloskee, which is, probably 120 miles away, day and a half, 2 days.
BS, I am convinced that this is the Barkley Marathon of watercraft races because lack of sleep and decision-making is such an important part in both of these. This is crazy.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed. But it is nowhere near as hard as the Barkley because while, the Barkley has 15 total finishers in 30 plus years?
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Around about there.
Yeah, the Everglades Challenge has like a 40% completion rate average per year, and about 100 people do it every year. So 40 people finish every year.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's hard, but it's not like, and old fat guys do it regularly. So I don't know.
All right, you burst my bubble. I'm gonna continue to draw parallels, but you go right ahead with your story.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay, all right.
It's hard, but it's not like, you know, that level.
Okay.
So, anyways, after you get out of checkpoint 1, you do your sort of last required major bay crossing through a piece of water called Charlotte Harbor. At the time, the wind had kind of switched such that Charlotte Harbor was a freaking washing machine. 3-4 foot waves right on the beam of the vessel, occasionally rolling into the boat. And this is where I really screwed up. So at this point, there's sort of 3 courses you can take. There's 2 islands that are next to each other in front of you. There's Pine Island and what becomes Sanibel Island. So you can either go super far east and go east of Pine Island. You can go in the middle and go between Pine Island and Sanibel, or you can go offshore and go offshore of Sanibel. All the sailboats go offshore. I, like an idiot, went between Pine Island and Sanibel, thinking I'd have better winds. It's a slightly larger bay and I could sail more, whatever. I was on not a lot of sleep. Mistake.
That makes sense to me. It didn't work out that way?
No, didn't work out. So I get owned in Charlotte Harbor. 3 to 4 foot breaking waves on the beam. I did 2 or 3 what's called a high brace. So when you're canoeing and you have a canoe paddle and your paddle's over here and there's a huge wave coming to your side, you have 2 choices. You either lean into the wave and paddle sideways into the wave and prevent a roll, or you take the wave in the face and possibly roll over the other way. It's called a high brace. So I had to high brace several times going across this bay. And unknowing to me, filled my boat with water. So I went from carrying way too much water to carrying a ludicrous amount of water. And as you know, water is heavy. So I had 20 liters in a pouch, or a bladder full. And then I probably had another 50 liters of just salt water floating around in my boat. But I didn't know about it because all my stuff's in the back of my boat. I'm popping a wheelie. So if I look between my legs, my bilge is dry. That's because the back half of my boat is absolutely filled with water and popping a wheelie. So I get through Charlotte Harbor. I enter into the backside of Sanibel Bay. And I, like the wind direction changes. I got to put my sail down. I'm just paddling into the wind and I can't make speed for, to save I'm talking like 1 mile an hour, which is slow for, I can normally paddle 3.5, 4. I'm making 1 mile an hour. I'm on 2 hours sleep. I'm hating life. Things are going poorly. I can't figure out why. So I just decide to camp. It's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just, all right, I'm done. I'm going to camp. So I pull over to this place called North Captiva Island, which is not so legal to camp on, but whatever. And, this is the beginning of, shallow area. So I run aground about 100 yards from dry dirt and have to drag my boat into the beach, get to the beach, set up camp, open up the back of my boat and find a freaking aquarium back there. And then, oh, no wonder you couldn't paddle. You have a 280-pound boat, So empty all the stuff out, empty the boat out, set up camp, and then walk over the island and go from the bay side to the ocean side. At the time, there was a strong easterly wind. I'm on the west coast of Florida, which is an offshore breeze. So I walk over to the beach side, and it's a whole different world. The ocean is flat like a pool table. There's, just the slightest, pitter patter of wind across the surface. It looks so inviting. And And so I come up with a bright idea of, in the morning, I'm going to paddle in the ocean because there's no waves and it's a, a sailable angle. So I camp there that night, wake up early, strike out at like 4 a.m. thinking I got this. I don't look at my charts that carefully because I got this. And turns out
didn't they float away?
No, that was a tide table.
That was a tide table. Okay.
I had my charts. And I had 2 GPSs. I was not getting lost.
Okay.
I was making all these bad decisions intentionally. So I make another bad decision to go offshore into the Gulf of Mexico in an 18-foot Kevlar canoe by myself at 4 a.m. in the dark.
What could go wrong? What could go wrong?
Right. Well, what could go wrong is I ran aground 1.5 miles offshore. So I'm headed south out of North Captiva, and there's a huge sandbar that extends between North Captiva and South Captiva. It's clearly marked on the charts. Everybody knows about it, except for me, who doesn't look on the chart before I leave in the morning, like an idiot. So it's dark. I'm paddling via headlamp. And I mean, I'm on dry sand. And I'm so far from shore, the lights on the houses on shore look like Lego houses, like tiny little houses far away. And so now I have to get out of my canoe 1.5 miles offshore in the Gulf of Mexico at night via headlamp and like walk my boat over the nearly dry sand, praying that I don't step on a stingray or, whatever else, or, fall into some, ocean chasm that's on the, anyways. Long story short, I get back in my boat, keep paddling.
How wide was the sandbar?
60 yards, let's say. Like I'll walk.
Got to drag your boat 60 yards across the sand to the other side.
I mean, it's not like dry. There's an inch of water or whatever, but for sure, cussing. It's 4 a.m. I'm tired.
Swearing like a paddler.
Yeah, exactly. And so eventually make it to like shin deep water, which is enough for me to paddle in and get in my boat, keep going, and everything's sweet till I get to the end of Sanibel Island, which is a coastal West Coast Florida island that's like 4 or 5 miles offshore, and it just abruptly ends. So when you go past the end of Sanibel Island, you're 5 miles offshore with a strong easterly wind, which is an offshore wind, which means I go from being in the lee of, no waves to 5 miles of fetch and like 3-foot waves very abruptly. And this sucks.
I'm no sailor, but that doesn't sound good.
No, 5-foot waves on your side is bad juju.
Okay.
So Sanibel is like a very popular tourist destination, and it's known for its shells. So there's hundreds of old ladies on the beach with their pails, like picking up shells. And I'm paddling into, huge waves right on my nose, trying to get around the corner. And there's this old lady in a noticeable red bathing suit that outwalks me. She's walking down the beach. I'm paddling the whole time. I see her from behind me, paddling as hard as I can, switching sides. She outwalks me down the beach. So I'm like, man, this is
that's got to instill confidence in you.
Yeah.
And when you say noticeable red bathing suit, what does that mean exactly?
You could see it from offshore.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the particular style or cut. Yeah.
Now you're getting that's inappropriate, dog.
Sorry, I'll dial it back. Go ahead.
I'll HR on you there. Anyway, so I think it's a good. All right, forget it. If she can outwalk me, it's certainly going to be easier to walk down the beach than it will be to try and paddle slower than she's walking. So I come inshore. I go to the end of Sanibel. From the end of Sanibel to the mainland is like a 6-mile bay, heavily tidal, strong winds, big waves. It's scary.
Did you grab your boat by the underneath the lip and just drag it and run and pass that lady and yell something? I got you.
Yeah,
I'm faster than you.
Yeah, no. I was in no mood for noise talking at that point. Plus, they just look at you like, who's this? Because this time it is day 2. no shower, no deodorant. So I'm squarely in the homeless paddler category.
Yeah, we talk about hiker trash on the trail. I mean, would this be paddler trash or
Definitely. Or
boat trash? Okay.
boat trash, sailor trash.
Sailor trash. Okay.
But anyways, look up the tides. Look when it's supposed to be slack tide, minimal movement across the bay. I decide to strike out. I make it across the bay. And now I can enter a pretty long stretch of intercoastal waterway where I can hide from the wind. Everything's good. And like I say, this is like West Coast touristy Florida. So I pull into a resort with a Starbucks and like some terrible Mexican restaurant. And so I get a quesadilla and 2 double espressos to go.
It's a dinner of champions right there.
Dinner, town food, as they say, and keep going. I make it all the way to Lover's Key, which is like a touristy, no houses, just resorts. Set up camp like a homeless guy on Dinner Key, get some good sleep, some good rest, strike out again in the morning. Now this is day 4.
Have you hit all your checkpoints?
Yeah, so I made it to checkpoint. I've only made it to checkpoint 1.
That's it. Okay. There was no deadline to make it to checkpoint 2?
Yeah, checkpoint 2 is like mile 170.
Okay. So you got time.
Yeah, I made checkpoint 1 on the morning of the second day. And then the third day is when I got owned around Sanibel and made it to Lover's Key. So now 4th day. I kind of had some shoulder pain, but nothing crazy. And then wake up in the morning, leaving Lover's Key, have a great day. I catch the tide right. I'm, flying out the inlet. I go offshore. I run offshore for, like 50 miles of glory, like perfect beam reach, wind right on the side of the boat, sailing fast, paddling as well, making good miles, crushing it. I make it all the way down to Marco Island. So Marco Island is the end of civilization. Anything south of Marco Island is Everglades, mosquitoes, alligators, salt water, nowhere to get additional water. It's proper wilderness. No cell phone coverage, no nothing. So I'm flying down the coast, make it to Marco. Shoulder's starting to hurt a bit more. It's Tuesday now. And so I call my shore contact. You're required to have a shore contact. I find out that the day before, when I was getting owned in Charlotte Harbor, there was 2 or 3 Coast Guard rescues of Everglades Challenge paddlers who had problems enough to call for help. I also find out that a sailor has been lost offshore, and they're like mounting a Coast Guard rescue, but he hasn't activated his EPIRB. There's been no call for help. He just, his tracker device just, showed him going in circles like 60, 70 miles offshore. No word from him, but I'm in the maritime industry. I know what it means when you've been lost at sea for more than 24 hours and you haven't set off I know for a fact he had on his person an EPIRB in his pocket, in his life jacket. If he didn't set that off, something else happened. Anyways, so I know he's lost at this point. I got a sore shoulder. I'm on the precipice of the unrescuable wilderness. I find out there's been at least 2 more Coast Guard rescues at the time, right? I got stuff to do on Monday and people counting on me to do it, 2 little girls at home. I can either turn myself inside out and paddle through the night to make checkpoint 2, which is in a place called Chokoloskee, which is inland in the 10,000 Islands National Park and extremely tidal. There's basically 2 ways to get there, but they're both very tidal. In order to get there and not fight the tide in, you have to arrive at 3 a.m. It's 5 p.m. I'm in Marco Island, which is 25 miles away. So I'll need to essentially paddle through the night to make the channel by 3 and ride the inland tide in to barely make the time cutoff at checkpoint 2. With a, I don't want to say I was injured, but I had some shoulder pain. Oh yeah, and a guy died. So I decided to.
It's got to play with your head. That's got to play with your head. All those factors out there.
So I decided to tap out, pull into Marco Island, cheeseburger, beer, call my wife, hey, come get me. Which I think was a good call at the time, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how my 2020 Everglades Challenge ended.
Got it. So it's 300 miles, and you did about, was it half of it? You got
yeah,
there?
100. A skosh more than half, 158.
Skosh yeah. More than half.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're an efficient paddler and the shortest distance possible, it's only about 285 or 88 miles as a paddler. And sailors, depending on how deep they draw, have to go almost 340 miles because they can't go across Florida Bay. It's too shallow.
Got it. Okay. Well, we're going to take a break right there. When we come back, we're going to hear about what other adventures and what's next for BS. And we'll see if we can pin him down on a top 5 list. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back.
You guys are a billionaire.
All right. Welcome back. So BS's Everglades challenge was unsuccessful. He got through about half of it. Did you ever go back and kind of wrap up that second segment in the Everglades?
I did. This January 2021, me and a group of guys who are, all water tribe paddlers started in Chokoloskee and then did the entire Wilderness Waterway, which is through Everglades National Park, about 100 miles, and then ended up in Tavernier Key, where one of the guys I paddled with owns and operates a ecotourism paddle, SUP, stand-up paddleboard shop there. So it was, I think 5 of us started, and then 4 of us finished. One of the, 4 of us started, and 3 of us, 5 started, 4 finished. One, a gal who went with us peeled off sort of halfway through and then turned back and made it back to her car in Chokoloskee. So we started, sort of a fishing village in Chokoloskee, which is, between 10,000 Isles National Park and Everglades National Park on the southwest coast of Florida, which is the start of, they call it a paddling trail, but it's called the Wilderness Waterway. It's a 100-mile section of national park where there sort of is dry land, but not really. It's mucky, and along the way there's campsites. They call them chickies, which are essentially, I talked about it earlier, but it's a dock with a portalet in the middle and another dock next to it along the way. And so you have to arrange campsites along the way, very similar to several, hiking national parks where you arrange your campsites. Yeah. So we averaged about, first day was short. And the first night was pretty exciting. We got, typical late start, somebody showed up late, whatever, paddling into the night, into the Everglades. And so we have manatees in Florida, which are also called sea cows. Mm-hmm. And this is like 1,000+ pound, grass eating, friendly little, mitten having sea creature. They're super nice, but very much like cows, you can sneak up on them when they're sleeping. They like to sleep in, shallow, sandy bottom, kind of protected areas. And obviously paddle boats don't make a lot of noise. So the first night I was, half a mile from where we were going to camp on a chickie. And I paddled up on 2 or 3 sleeping manatees. Now, when you scare a 1,000-pound plus, sea cow, they will freak out and flap their tail and, take off. Think about a wake from like a ski boat, but there's no boat. It's just a V-shaped wake heading out at you out of nowhere, and then a flapping tail next to it.
Really? I mean, I know what manatees are, but I never thought of them as particularly quick, or
like cows. They can be quick for 100 yards.
Okay,
yeah, they peter out quickly. You know what I mean? They're not.
Yeah.
But they can sprint when they need to, especially if you wake them up sleeping. And because, they live their whole lives where, if they're sleeping and they hear a noise at night, sometimes it, is followed by a propeller running down their back and slicing them open. So, there's a little manatee PTSD from getting woken up in the middle of the night.
Nice.
Anyway, so I paddle along by myself, dark, headlamps, quiet, Everglades. It's peaceful. It's beautiful. And then all of a sudden the water erupts around me with, 2-foot wake and a flapping manatee tail. Like I squealed like my 3-year-old daughter at a birthday party. Anyways, get to the Chicky, camp the first night. It's awesome. Next day, just an inland slog, very little wind, paddling through narrow passages through the Everglades. It was beautiful. Saw a few alligators. There's several sections that are sort of spring fed, so it's quite clear water. Had an amazing paddle, went to various spots, make it to the next campsite, which was one of the guys' birthday that we paddle with, Scott Bass, who in the water tribe is known as Conquistador. He turned 70 on the trip. Yeah, I was the youngest guy by a lot. And had a little birthday party for him. And he was on a stand-up paddleboard. So, like, if you think what I did is, Barkley masochistic, an SUP is like times 2.
Yeah.
No sail, lots of windage, extra hard.
Yeah. Did you ever watch World's Toughest Race on Amazon Prime?
Yes, I did.
Eco Challenge.
I watched the Eco Challenge back in the day when it was on CBS or whatever.
Yeah. I was just thinking of your 70-year-old friend on a stand-up paddleboard.
Yeah.
Kind of the different things they had to go through.
He is a stud.
I bet.
So
now, hang on 1 second, BS. I have to ask, is the vision in my mind of the Pirates of the Caribbean, the bayou, is that similar at all to the Everglades? Am I way off? That's more like Louisiana bayou type stuff.
Oh no, there's alligators that sing all over the Everglades. They serenade you the entire length.
There's no singing alligators on the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, they have alarm clocks in all their bellies. They let you know when it's noon.
Yeah, that's a different ride. That's a different ride. But are there people that live in the Everglades? Are there like houses? And
okay. So there are what they call fish camps. So think about it like a shack on a dock in the middle of the Everglades. And at one time, people lived in the Everglades, but currently there is only. So have you seen the show The Last Alaskans?
No.
Okay, so it's a Discovery. Anyway, there is grandfathered in cabins that are privately owned inside the national park. That are called fish camps, and those do exist, and they're private property. You're not allowed to camp on them. So there are habitations, but no permanent residence. But there were previously, 1900s, late 1800s, people who like homesteaded there. And there's some really good stories. There was actually a serial killer that lived in the Everglades.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And he would grow sugarcane and then make moonshine from the sugarcane. And then, so he would go to town and get like his name was Watson, and he'd go get a farmhand for the season to come out to his camp out in the middle of the glades. Say he's going to pay him whatever for the season, do the harvest, run the liquor or whatever. Never came back to town. This happened, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know the exact number, but enough to get noticed times.
They finally caught on, huh?
Yeah. So the townspeople went out and lynched him, drug him back to town, public hanging. A guy named Watson. So you can paddle to Watson's place, which is a ruin of his homestead. which still has his, water cistern to catch water, and like that you can see where his cabin was and the flat spot where his crops were. So nobody lives there now. But
sounds like a perfect opportunity to have a haunted tour of Watson's homestead.
Right. Only it's 80-ish mile, or not 80, but probably 50-ish miles from the next inhabitable place.
You got to work to go see it.
Yeah, it's not it's not somewhere you can get to without earning it. That's for sure.
Okay. So your paddle from Chokoloskee to Key Largo successful without
successful? Yes, very good. Had a great time. Saw some beautiful places. Really, no major drama, no issues. Gear was dialed in.
Because there was no major drama, did you have any regrets on your decision to stop during the Everglades challenge at that spot?
No. I look. Like I said, I had people waiting on me at home, kids, wife. There is zero regret in my mind from the tap out that I made. It's my goal was to get home and secondarily to finish. So I made my first goal. I got home. So no, zero regret from tapping out early.
And it sounds like you had 300 plus miles worth of adventure / misadventure pile all compacted into that first half of the race.
Yeah, maybe more. Maybe
more. It sounds like a lot like type 2 fun, possibly type 3 fun.
Well, we're talking about it now, so it disqualifies it from type 3.
Okay. Are you an expert on the different types of fun?
I'm a fan of the podcast, so I'm aware
of
the jargon.
Very good. Ginger balls filled me in on that. I had no idea that even existed, but once I found out about it, it pops up everywhere. Everybody's talking about it.
I mean, I'm a type 2 fun aficionado.
Okay.
I'm into it, but type 3 fun, we try and avoid that.
Yes. Yep. All right. What's next for BS? What's on your radar?
So immediately next, and partially inspired by listening to your podcast and other hiking media, some friends of mine decided to hike a 50-mile section of the Appalachian Trail. So that's going to happen in September. We're going to go from a 50-mile section in Vermont. So I'm going to fly into New York. We're going to carpool up to Manchester, Vermont, and then stay at a hostel like near the trail and hike from Manchester up to Killington. It's not the hardest hiking ever, but we're going to do 4 days. For us sea level folks, the altitude may be a thing. But yeah, I'm excited. And the best part is the trail where we're going to ends at an Irish pub in Killington.
Perfect planning right there.
I'm so excited.
Nice. And does that overlap with the long trail?
It does. So the lower section of the long trail mirrors the AT. There's some deviations because the AT shifts around every, they change it, they update it or whatever. The long trail is fixed. It stays, the long trail doesn't move. It is what it is. So there's some sections where they diverge and then reconnect, but it's literally like around the left side of the right side of a mountain. It's not a serious change, but I'm pretty excited.
So this episode that we're recording right now comes out on September 25th. When do you leave on your trip?
So I fly out the 24th.
Oh,
so the 25th will be my first day on trail.
Okay. So hopefully you'll have some signal. You can download the episode and listen to it on your hike, or at least in camp.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will likely save it for my flight home.
Okay. Any desire whatsoever to take another crack at the Everglades challenge, do the full thing in one fell swoop?
Yeah, 100%. My redemption year Everglades challenge will be 2022 in March. I'm training currently for it, and with a little luck and some better decision making, I hope to complete the 2022 Everglades Challenge. And this will be a fun year because the boat that I sail in, the 18-foot clipper canoe, there will be 3 of us in identical boats with an identical sail, which means we'll have our own subclass. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Okay. Well, wisdom is gained from making mistakes. So you are a very wise man. You've been through it once, and you can apply that newfound knowledge to the challenge in 2022. And you have to promise right now that you come back on the podcast and talk about the experience and take us through it.
All right. Scout's honor. I will come back. All
right. Hey, let's do a quick top 5 list. You are Florida based. We're talking about adventure. What are the top 5 adventures to take in Florida should somebody get there?
Well, number 1, definitely the Wilderness Waterway through Everglades National. There is plenty of outfitters that can set you up with all the gear you need. There are chickies or, campsites, if you will, every 5 to 7 miles. So you don't have to be an Olympic paddler to make it. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's wild. And it's, if you're, on spring break in Fort Lauderdale, it's an hour and a half drive away.
Okay. Beautiful. That's 1.
I'd say 2 would be Penny Camp Park in Key Largo, which is some of the best snorkeling in the Keys. And if you're a bit more adventurous, as I am, some of the best wreck diving on the planet. There's several large, one's a Navy ship and a Coast Guard ship, intentionally reefed, designed for wreck diving. Beautiful, very worth it.
Okay, you said wreck diving. I thought REC, like recreational, but you were talking WRECK, like shipwrecks. Got it. Okay.
Wreck diving, yeah.
All right, that's 2.
Yep. I would say 3 would be a river called the Peace River. This is a fun canoe kayak river, not technical, no rapids, but it just so happens is this river transits through a sedimentary layer that is filled with fossils and shark teeth, megalodon teeth. Again, plenty of outfitters. You can rent all the stuff you need, and you can stop along the way on these gravel bars and shovel gravel into a sieve and sieve out fossilized shark teeth, megalodon teeth, mastodon teeth that are the size of a brick. Amazing fossils. I've only done it once, but I took my 6-year-old daughter. It was amazing. We found a megalodon tooth, like a 2.5 inch, 3 inch tall shark tooth that's however many thousands of years old. Amazing.
Nice.
And you can camp on the end.
Okay.
So I'd say 4 would be the springs. So Florida is the only place on the planet that has as many naturally occurring springs in such a small area. They're all 72 degrees year round, just cool, fresh, clean water that emanates from the earth. My favorite of which is called Weeki Wachee Spring.
Weeki Wachee?
Weeki Wachee.
Weeki Wachee, okay. All right.
And this has been a tourist attraction since the early 50s. President Kennedy actually went there. So the spring source is this, cavern into the water, into the earth that an immense amount of water flows out of. And they've built a underwater amphitheater, basically, where they have a mermaid show, and you can see, these women dressed up as mermaid. They do a little show. It's awesome. President Kennedy went there.
That's the Disneyland attraction that I'm thinking of.
Yep. And then you can rent a canoe and then canoe down crystal clear, 72-degree water that eventually ends up in the ocean. So in the river, you'll see manatee, sea otter, snook, tarpon, all sorts of big ocean fish in perfectly clear water.
BS, you keep saying 72-degree water like that's warm or something. That's 72 degrees. That's cold.
It's beautifully cold.
It's refreshing.
So when it's muggy, just sweaty, nasty, because most rivers in Florida, most water in Florida are equally bathwater-ish.
Oh, okay.
Isn't so refreshing, right? But you hop into 72-degree, perfectly clear water. It's, unbelievably nice. And there's like a microclimate around the river because it's cool. So if you camp near the river, even in the summer, it's drastically cooler.
Okay, good tip right there. How about number 5?
Number 5, I would say 10,000 Islands National, just north of Everglades National, or 10,000 Islands State Park, not national. And this is great because there's 10,000 islands and there's no permits required to camp. So you can just rent a boat or get a boat, take your boat, and go camping on any of these beautiful white sandy beaches with no permit and no nothing. Just get your stuff and go and leave when you're done, and it's awesome.
Which of the 10,000 is your favorite?
I've only camped on Rabbit and I think one other.
Are they all named?
Yes, they are all.
No way.
Well, I mean, maybe not all. The big ones are named.
Okay. All right. I was pulling your chain, but you had an answer ready for me, so that kind of backfired.
Well, yeah. I mean, cartographers need a job too.
Okay. As do marine engineers.
That's right.
Okay. Hey, BS, you know where we are?
No, I don't.
You don't? We
No,
were at that time with you. Of course you do. We were at that time of the episode where I asked you for your pro tip insight of the week. What nugget of wisdom do you have to share with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better?
So, less wisdom, more advice. So I'm a working stiff with 2 kids and a wife that I love dearly, a job that I spend too many hours working at. But I take great pleasure in getting out there and, having outdoor adventure. And the only reason that I have time or the ability to do it is not because I have some special job or, immense financial resources. It's because I make it a priority. It's because I schedule it. I intentionally make sacrifices in the weeks that I don't go out there to make it a priority. And, to all the listeners out there that want to get out there and are just listening to this podcast like myself to get your outdoor fix Monday through Friday. We only get so many trips around the sun. So let's make all your laps count and make it a priority, and it'll happen if you do.
That's right. If you were to wait until there was nothing interfering or getting in the way, you might not ever take that trip. You've got to make it a priority and say, you know what, I'm going to put this first this weekend or this week, and we're going to do this and go have that experience, because you're right. Life is short and you need to live that life.
Because nobody regrets not buying the bigger TV or the, should have gone out one more time with my friends. No, everybody regrets I wanted to hike the AT. I wanted to do a long trail or the John freaking Muir Trail. And, those things only happen if you make them a priority. So make them a priority.
That's right. After you're 50 miles on the AT, you're going to make the JMT a priority for yourself?
That's the plan.
Okay.
So one of my buddies who's doing the trail with me, this is kind of a warm up, gear shakeout. So the plan is JMT 2023, maybe 2024, depending. Okay. So that was the idea. But, in listening to, I forget the podcast, there was a gentleman the photographer who did the amazing book. I forget his name. Josh Endress.
Yes.
I may take his route of the slightly less traveled, easier to get a permit in the same area, Sierra kind of, because the JMT, the permit process is like daunting.
Yeah. It's like getting the golden ticket. If you're trying for Happy Isles to Whitney or Whitney to Happy Isles, that exact route, it's tough to get, but there are lots of other trails that you can enter, near those points and hike through.
Yeah. And maybe we'll do the midpoint north or south and then do it over 2 years, just because a week and a half is a lot easier to swing than 4.
Now you're talking my language. That's my specialty.
Yeah.
All right. So there you have it. That's it. This episode is just about in the books. I hope our listeners enjoyed our time with BS. I want to thank you for joining us this week. Buffalo Soldier, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your latest adventures?
So I am old and antiquated, so I'm only on Facebook. I occasionally post videos on Facebook of my paddling adventures, and I am often on other people's YouTube posts and paddles. But yeah, just Facebook, Brian Sheridan, facebook.com.
Okay. Remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We are on Facebook as well, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and believe it or not, TikTok. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at johnfreakinmuir@gmail.com. BS, I'm also looking to you to share a recommendation for some type of adventure media that's going to help our listeners stay connected to the outdoors. We're calling this our adventure media recommendation. What do you have for us?
Twofold. One of the guys I did the January paddle with, Scott Bass, also known as Conquistador, has a great YouTube channel called, I actually wrote it down, Sup. I don't have it written down. Oh, so yeah, there's a great paddle movie about the Everglades Challenge called The Challenge. It's on YouTube. And then if you look up Paddle the Florida Keys or SUP, like all caps SUP Challenger is Conquistador's YouTube channel. He's awesome. And there's actually a video of the January paddle on there.
All right, let's check that out. He sounds pretty epic.
Yeah, he's done the EC, the Everglades Challenge 4 times on a SUP. I think the only person to do it that many times on a SUP. He did the there's a Kruger Waddell Challenge in Minnesota that's, I think, 280 miles with a bunch of portages between lakes. He's done that. And he's done the Yukon 1000, a 1,000-mile paddle race down the Yukon River in Alaska.
Wow.
Amazing guy.
Yes. All right. And before we wrap things up, I've got one more segment for you called What Have I Not Asked You That You're Dying to Tell Me About?
So the Water Tribe was sort of inspired by a guy named Verlin Kruger. And this is his book. So Verlin Kruger.
All Things Are Possible?
All things are possible, right? Verlin Kruger paddled 100,000 miles in a boat he built himself out of Kevlar. He's from Michigan, and a lot of these long distance paddle races are based on his actual course through the United States. He paddled from the tippy top of Alaska down to the southern tip of Chile, South America. All self-propelled, no sail, just a paddle. All Things Are Possible by Verlin Kruger is an amazing read. And he didn't start paddling until he turned 40 years old.
That is crazy. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, outside adventure is a tree, and this is a fantastic branch that we have kind of taken a little side trip down to hear about paddling and aquatic adventures. Very, very worth the time. I really appreciate you coming on, BS.
Thanks, Doc. Good to talk with you, and I'll look forward to some great content from the John Freaking Muir Pod.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. Doesn't care if you know what? I mean, I'm gonna edit this part out. That's a wrap from the John Freaking Muir studio. Any shout outs to friends and family, Brian?
Just to my beautiful wife, who lets me go on these adventures, and to my parents who started the adventure for me.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if you are carrying a ludicrous amount of water after a day of high bracing to avoid rolling in Charlotte Harbor. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.